Starts Vahi b'shalach paris som le'nochem alakim derech eretz plishtim. So the way we normally learn pshat is that they'll come, they'll see a war, and obviously they were civilians, so they don't know anything about war. So they'll retreat, and they want to learn back to Mitzrayim. Even though l'chayre, okay, if the Benshim guarantees we win, is no problem. We see doch by Mitzrayim through Yam Suf, the Mitzrayim are chasing us, and Afal Pikein, they were scared. Moshe Rabbeinu quieted them, and then they went on weiter. So what's the Benshim so afraid over here? So I think that and besides, we know in a real war that they actually had to fight back was by Amalek, and it had to be within 7 weeks. It's definitely before Shavuos, before Matan Torah, and the Muhammad's Amalek. So exactly how long it was after Kriyas Yamsuf, I don't know, but it wasn't too long, and all of a sudden they're fighting a war, and they win. So like, why are you so scared? The chat is, I want to tie in it. They'll have a war, but they won't fight the war. What will happen is the Plishtim will come out with an army, and they're going to say, "We're not letting you through." And the reason they don't, so let's run over them, just like we did with Sichain. But the mice we can't, because there's just the shvua between Avram and the Plishtim is still in place, so we can't fight with them. Now, with their children, their grandchildren are still alive, and it seems that they're alive all the way until David HaMelech's time. So I don't even know what it is there, but they're alive, and because they're alive, you can't attack them. That was the treaty. So if we can't attack them, so we have to go around. So we have to go around. They'll think that the Bnei Shalom can't do it. That's what will be. So they'll go back to Mitzrayim. The Bnei Shalom can't do it. You'll see in the end of by Edom, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to try to fight Edom. That's before Sichai, and yet we don't. We go around Eretz Edom. We got tired of the road. It was whatever it is there. But Lamaisa, we went around Eretz Edom. That's because 40 years in the Midbar, they saw the Gvuras Hashem. They saw what the Rebbein Shem can do. So therefore, they weren't afraid of going going around. And it's not because they were afraid of Edom, but because the Rebbein Shem said we can't attack them, we can't take their land. So, but over here, this is just the beginning. You can't do it. You see the same idea. We'll go back about it again when Parshas Tetzaveh and the union of Shem Ezai Zoch. Shem Ezai Zoch means that it has to be pure oil from the beginning until the end. You can't make oil and take out the shmorim and then it'll be pure oil. It doesn't work that way. You have to have just the first drop of oil from each olive. So I don't know how many olives it takes to make a day's worth of oil, but that was what it takes. That's what we're talking about. And the reason is, the Rosh Hashanah used to say, is because it's teaching us how to teach. When you learn Torah, you can't let first shmorim go in and then hope that you'll be able to take them out. It doesn't always work that way. And therefore, he said, even when you learn a sugya, even when a Rebbe is trying to teach a piece of Gemara, and let's say the kids, as far as they're concerned, they have no problem. And the Rebbe wants to excite the Elam, so therefore he creates a kasha, right? And the kasha, no, it doesn't seem to be bothering anybody. And he tries to go over it and over and over again until the kids are convinced, okay, we'll go along with it, it's a kasha. And then he gives the teretz that he wants to give, and the guys say, that's not a teretz, that's an answer to kasha. So now they're stuck with a kasha, no teretz. And that's what you don't do when you come to Torah. If you want to do it, if you know what, you're not able to give a good hasbara yourself to get it out. So what you're supposed to do is, when you say a good teretz on something, you then say, and this teretz will also answer this and this kasha. Now, if the person doesn't see it, he doesn't take it too much as something that, a chesaron in the kwasha, a chesaron in me. But when you build it up that this is it and this is the teretz and it doesn't work, so then you created a problem with the kid. And Torah, you don't do that, especially in hashkafis. And we're going to have quite a few of them in Parshas Shalach. Okay. Moshe took Atzmas Yosef. So it says, why he take Atzmas Yosef? Ki hishbeya hishbiyas bnei Yisrael. He made the Shvatim promise that they'll take him out, and no one was doing it, and everyone was busy borrowing things from their neighbors, and Moshe Rabbeinu went and took it. So he took it. It says in Parshas Eikev on the Pasuk Kol HaMitzvah, that's right after Sheni, that a mitzvah goes after the person who finishes it. In other words, why a life for Moshe Rabbeinu? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who took him out, and yet it says Asher when the Bnei Yisrael buried him, Asher Hotziu Bnei Yisrael. The Jews took him out of Mitzrayim, not Moshe. So l'chayre, you see, the mitzvah is giving credit to the one who finishes it. We know a Gemara that says just the opposite. It says that if a guy wanted to do a mitzvah and he's nenas, he can't do it in the end. He gets full schar for wanting to do the mitzvah, as if he did it. So there's no bigger onus than dying. So one of the time the chilik is this, that a person who who makes the mitzvah his, not talking about a personal mitzvah, talking about a kehillisha mitzvah, like Moshe Rabbeinu, like Atzmas Yosef. He didn't take him out because he wanted to take out the Atzmas Yosef. He's taking him out because the others, the Shvatim, promised him that their children will take him out. So he's acting for Klal Yisrael. And if he would have buried it, he would also be acting as Klal Yisrael. But then maybe he would have gotten full credit because he did the whole mitzvah. A personal mitzvah, it's only yours. You get full schar even if you don't do it. But if I'm only doing it because it's a kehillisha mitzvah, then only if you finish it, you get the full schar. Now, if that's the case, so then it's important that people take kehillisha mitzvahs for their own. In other words, there's a guy, he sees things in the shul, it's papers at the end of the day. Things on the floor, and there's no really cleaning lady or coming until, let's say, the end of the week, once a week or twice a week. But meanwhile, it's dirty in the middle. And he takes upon himself to clean it up. He's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for Klal Yisrael. He's doing it for the people in the shul. He should make it as my mitzvah. I'm doing it. Someone else chaps my race one day, he can let him do it. But I meant to say, but it's my mitzvah. It's not that I'm doing it because it has to be done and no one else is doing it. That way you'll only get schar when you finish it. But if you do it every single time because it's my mitzvah, then even if you don't do it sometimes, you'll still get the mitzvah. Because then you're nenas, when you have kavanah to do a mitzvah, you're nenas, you get full schar. Now, I want to tie something, I think we started last week, but maybe to understand it here also. He's talked about the exact slave pari. Can you do tshuva or not when the Benish was machzik your lev? So you see l'chayre from Parshas Boy that you could do it. Why? Because in Parshas Boy, right when he told him there's going to be a what do you call it, Albert. So the rest of the Tzriim, he said to him, the beginning of the Parshas, I'm going to make Ichbadi Yisliba B'Sleiv Avotov. So even the servants' hearts are going to be hardened. And yet it says, he's going to destroy Mitzrayim, so let the guys go. So you see the rebel do tshuva. So they bring him back, what happens? They antagonize Pari. So what Beisham, I think, does is he doesn't let the guy, by bringing up all kinds of situations where the guy should get angry and therefore not give in. And if that's the case, you can still do tshuva, it means. Just got to let just your emotions conquer your better sense. If your sense is that we got to do tshuva, so the fact that you're angry and upset, don't give in to that. And you see that Pari does that the Bensham does that here also. That in other words, they were going out, we just had the Makas Becheris and the Yidden are going out of Mitzrayim, and they get stuck, or the Bensham tells them to stop, Lefnei Baal Tzfoin. It's one of the idols of the Egyptians. Right? And all of a sudden, we see maybe the Bensham's not fully powerful. Maybe there's a way to stop the guy. All of a sudden, they're back in business again. In other words, the anger that they have or whatever it is makes it that they can't give in to do tshuva. But if a guy is kavish yitzray or makes some kind of protections against that, in other words, and he has his friend to calm him down or whatever, if that's the case, then it's possible for him to do tshuva, even Ichbadis Levi, but that Rabbanishim will get given tremendous schar for overcoming all these emotions that he's going to put into him. They came to Yam Suf. Now, this is a very interesting thing. We translate Yam Suf as the Red Sea. Now, did you ever hear of a Red Sea in your life? Why is there supposed to be a Red Sea? If anyone wanted to say the Dam was in the Nile, not in the sea. So what's it got to do with the Red Sea? Where's ever a Red Sea? I saw once, many years ago, that the word red years ago was spelled Reed, was spelled R-E-D. So Yam Suf is the Reed Sea. So the Jewish Publication Society translates it for the Reed Sea. Now, is there such a thing? Show me where it is. No one knows. But it's a puddle, and there's no question why they were able to go across. The only problem is how they drowned the Mitzrayim in the Reed Sea. Right? The way they describe it. But if the Reed Sea means the Red Sea, and for whatever reason it's called the Reed Sea, and that seems to be the Kabbalah that everybody knew was talking about the Red Sea, right? So then there's no Grace Akasha. Why I say I don't know why it's called the Reed Sea. Now, the question is where do they cross? So if you take a look at the Sinai Peninsula, it has two gulfs on the side because it's a peninsula that goes into the Red Sea. And there's I think one is called the Gulf of Sinai, and I think the other one's Gulf of Suez. Those two gulfs, and it's a short distance, 5 miles, 10 miles, I have no idea how big it is, and they'll cross it. Right? Again, you have a big problem because and after you cross it, you're in the Sinai Peninsula, with the Mount Sinai, and what do you call it? The reason it's called Sinai Peninsula because that's where the Torah was given. Everything else, you still have the same question: how do you drown all the Mitzrayim? And if you think about it, if you stretch out 3 to 4 million people in a line. They're not an organized line, but they're following each other. They're not going in a long line. They're going this way in a line, right? When you have cars going, how long would it tell you is a 10-mile backup? How many cars are involved? And 10-mile backup doesn't mean nothing because one guy's not on top of the other guy. So if you had 3 to 4 million people, you need a few miles to have them in. And if you have on top of that the Egyptians and their forces coming, so you need a place that's pretty big. 20 miles, 30 miles big, whatever it is there. I don't think they would fit. So now you have a new theory that came up. When they started to talk with the United Arab Emirates, they came up with a new theory that Kriyas Yamsuf was towards Saudi Arabia. And they're ready, when you're crossing a few hundred miles across the Yamsuf. There, actually, you can actually see that the possibility of everybody being in the Yamsuf at one time. And they got to have a place that's called, that the Torah was given to. And it makes sense, their method, because why is it that we land up in Eva Hayarden? In other words, we can land up by Sicha, and Oig is not big, because that's Israel, but again, by Sicha and by Amanamoyov, Edom, they're all on the west bank, on the east bank, of the Yarden. So why was there, why would you be there even if we went even around the Plishtim? So we went around the Sinai and came in at the end of the Plishtim and went on and went up around. So it would still be through the what do you call it, the Negev and into Eretz Yisrael. So why would they ever be leaving on Neva Yarden? But if they come out through Saudi Arabia, they land up in Eva Yarden. So that would work out that way. I said, I don't know the truth. It's a new theory, and you have already a lot of things written about it, and so I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Now, the Gemara says that a Shifcha Layom, what a Shifcha Layom saw, even Yecheskel ben Buzi didn't see. That's Yecheskel HaNavi. And the Rambam and the Rabbeinu Youre, they use expressions like even the smallest of that generation was bigger than Yecheskel. Now that makes them a fantastically great generation and everything else. And then the Baalei Musa come in and to explain, so how could it be that they were still a Shifcha Alayom? If they're bigger than Yecheskel, then there's no such thing as a Shifcha anymore. These are all great Nevi'im here. So how come we call it Shifcha Alayom? And they give Trutzim, like, it came fast, it comes fast, it didn't have the time to absorb it, and then you lose it fast. Okay, could be that these are all true, and they're all might be psychological, but I don't know if it would apply to the Bamidbar. I'll give you a pshat of my Enikel, who's now Rosh Kail, when he was in the 3rd grade. I think that's about 8 years old. Now, when the Rebbe told it over to me, I thought, what do you call it? When the Bacha told it to me, I told him the Rebbe. I thought the Rebbe told it to him, and he thought I told it to him. And the truth is, he told it to both of us. Okay, so what do you say? He said that we all know that all the waters in the world split when you Kriyas Yamsuf. And what is the Shemayim made out of? Water. So the heavens split. If the heavens split, you're going to see. Right? So it didn't take any godless on their part. They weren't big people. They were just a Shifcha Hayom. But you happened to be able to see things that Yecheskel couldn't see. Because Yecheskel was doing it as godless Nevuah, not because the heavens are open. He penetrates the heavens. But if the heavens are open, even the Shifcha Layom will see. And what she saw was more than what Yecheskel saw. So then it's all kashas. So my mind started to think about, so why didn't anybody else think of this answer? It makes a lot of sense. And then I think that's why we have to have kids. And you have to listen to kids. Because we are above that level. We don't think of it in such simple ways anymore. We're already looking for complicated answers. And because we can't see the simplicity of things. And that's our problem. I'll tell you another thing from the same grandchild, so you'll understand what I mean by grandchild. He was learning how to read, meaning the alphabet. He was about 2 years old, and you get in these big books and has a letter and then has a picture of something underneath it. So he asked my wife a question: does a C have 2 sounds? He says, why are you asking such a question for? He says, because C has a cat. And an O, there's ocean, and it's a sh sound. Right? So is it a soft C, a C, and in English it's called soft C and hard C. When I heard this, I all of a sudden gave myself a clap and cup, and I said, that's what Ochianis is. What is Ochianis are you talking about? When I was learning Chumash, when I was in yeshiva, the translation of Ochianis, they translated with Atlantic. And the reason why, I guess, is an A and an A, or Ochianis is really an O, but okay, the A, O, it's all the same thing, so therefore they said it's the same thing. Okay, and it's really, that's the Atlantic. The Atlantic has no islands in it. All the, wherever the islands come, we call it Caribbean Sea, Irish Sea, things of that sort. But the Atlantic Ocean has no islands. That's how deep it is. In fact, Magellan was the first to go around Cape Horn, was because the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans meet over there, and the waves are so tremendous because the two heights that are meeting together. And same thing why the Panama Canal needs locks is because you're taking the Pacific Ocean is much lower than the Atlantic Ocean, so you need different locks to be able to go from one level to the other level. And that's the thing there. So that was the raya. Okay, but now that I heard this, so I know that this we say Ochianis, right? As the old maps of the Greeks and the Romans, Ochianis is not Ochianis, it's Ochianis, right? And now it's Ochianis, makes sense. Ochianis. That's how you pronounce it, really, not Ochianis. Ochianis. And Ochianis should now be ocean, which comes from Ochianis, just take off the nus, which is a Roman way of doing things, like between us and in Roman, between the Romans and us, Haspasionis in English is Vespasian, Hadrianus is Hadrian, and all of these names, there's a nus sound onto it. So you take off the nus, and you keep the ocean, but it's not ocean, it's Ochian. That's the real thing. So you'll say, who says so? Why are you making such pronunciations and such things? Good question. So I take a look into our normal speech. The word name David is, right, is called for David, right? But David is Englishized. No, it isn't. The real name is, who's telling you to say it's David? It's David. Oh. And then when you have legion, right? Who says it's legion? It's legion, right? Just you're pronouncing it wrong. And the reason you're pronouncing it wrong, because for whatever reason, it keeps going, like we call Hashutvim instead of Hashutofim, and Erchen instead of Arachim. This is the word, they get used to it. Ein Horus, canary, whatever it is, Dorten. You put things together, you make it sound fast, whatever reason it is, and you get the wrong pronunciation of it, all right? But the thing is, the real word is Ochian. But I'm saying, but we're above that. We don't even go back to that simplicity to think that way anymore. And that's why we miss a lot of points. By Mora, the Gemara says that he took a bit of wood and put it into a bit of sea, a bit of water, and all of a sudden it became sweet. And that itself is a ness. I say that it's a ness that we have, that knowing science is a ness. Normally we know you can take two things that are both dangerous to you, like lye and acid, and put them together, you can drink it. One neutralizes the other one. So what's your raya that there's this? So one bitter, and I got a sweet. It's bullshit. Not a ness. Utilizing science. So a guy say it has to be that it was a bitter thing, that was a thing that should have caused it to be bitter, and that made it sweet. That was the ness. But I'm saying, but less that it's such a thing in the world, that there's no such, that's not a ness. Yeah. Yaakov, you want to say something? No. There's a joke, but it's not really a joke, and it's a big schwach for the woman. I don't even know if I'm telling it right, but this is the point of it. Miriam went out to sing with the women. What did they sing? They sang from all of Youre Shiur. She took one thing, Sus v'reich b'ram bayam. The horse and the rider, he drowned. That was the whole schwach for Hidoy that the schwach is that you saw. So the joke is that what she did is she was talking for women. In other words, the kasha was, why did the horse die in the Yam Suf? The Reichbay had to die. He was an Egyptian. He was a terrible person. But why the horse? Right? So we know that Toiv is much bigger than Ra. The Ben Shem gives better. So I can't be worse than the horse. I'm her wife of the Talmud Chacham and this thing, so I also get. And that's the din really, truthfully, because they're one, not because she's the horse. Or if they want to say that the horse and the person become the same, but she's what carries the man, so okay, no chinam, but it's not a joke. It was they say it's a true emes that the woman comes in on that schus without anything else. Yeah. We just see another point that the word the doctor, Ani Hashem Reifecha, doesn't mean I cured you. It means I didn't let you get sick either. That's what it's telling you. I'm not going to let all the things that happened in Mitzrayim happen to you. Why? Because Ani Hashem Reifecha. So therefore, not letting you get sick is also a reifer. And in our language, we have to realize that. Okay. They now came to feed them there, and Medasin, and they were hungry. They finished up the food from, from that went out of Mitzrayim with. This is 30 days later after they went out of Mitzrayim, still before Matan Torah. And they're hungry. They want food. And they're complaining, right? The Gemara says that food, lechem sholu kahagen. For food, bread, they ask for right way. They were entitled to ask. Basa loitanu sholu kahagen. For meat, though, that they had no right to ask for. On the other hand, in Tilim Ayin Ches, it says that the lechem was also like kahagen. That they didn't have bear by asking for the bread. So how does it fit? So a lamp shot like this. A normal person, they didn't ask for anything for the first 30 days because they had the Youre of the stuff that they, from the matzah that they made. The bench made a nest lasted 30 days, and as long as they kept taking food out of that thing, they didn't bother asking the Banish. And that's the chesed that the bench still does. That you followed me, that's the schus of God. So you followed me without reason, nothing, just because I asked you to. And now all of a sudden we're going to spoil that. Why all of a sudden we want food? We know the bench was taking care of us. It shouldn't have lasted 30 days, so why are you complaining? Let me explain something, I think, that everybody realizes. Let's see a yeshiva guy. You know that, let's say, you eat breakfast. You're not hungry till about 1 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock, whenever you eat lunch. And why? Because, lunch is ready there. And the truth is, maybe you feel a little hungry, maybe when it gets like 12:30. But the truth is, you're not saying, oh, I'm hungry. You're not hungry. What happened if we would tell this guy that today there's no lunch? When will he get hungry? I think he will get hungry at 11 o'clock. Why aren't you at least not hungry until 1 o'clock, like a normal day? A normal day, I'm not hungry because I know what to expect. I expect to have food. That makes me, I'm not hungry. But once I know I'm not going to have food, I'm automatically hungry. That's what came over here. They wanted food because normally they asked Kahagen. Why? Because they were hungry. But why were you hungry? That's the like Kahagen. That's what the Tillim is talking about. It was not proper because you shouldn't have gotten hungry till 1 o'clock. Yeah, skip one point. I don't remember if we spoke about Chukim once before, but Rashi again mentions it in the Parshas by Mora that they gave Chukim, and he explains what the Chukim were, and some of them he explains was Paraduma, Chazer, Shatnez, and again, Chukim are mitzvahs that have no reasoning. There's no reason. And the Yeshivas, that's how you used to touch up on Chazel and Shatnez. That the Satan, and you take a look in the Russian of Rashi, in Teldais, is that the Satan, they almost question us, or they answer us. And it's, you guys are wrong. In other words, with a taina. You believe in God, and you see that God made an item that's just for eating, which is the chaza, because everything can be eaten about it. And you're not eating it. So it's a good question. So the answer is, well, God said no. It's the reason we're not eating it. You're right. We should be eating it, but God said no. The same thing goes for shatnez. It's two opposite materials, one for beauty, one for strength. Put together, it's wonderful, and you can't wear it. You can't wear it. That shows Yiras Hashem. That's like Adam Marishan in the Eitz Hadas. When he passed the Eitz Hadas, he'd look at it and say, "Your fruit looks nice. Maybe I would like to taste it." But God said no. So he always remembers there's a God in the world. That's the point. Remember Yiras Shemayim when we do these mitzvahs and the chukim. And that it sticks it into us, whether we want to or not. They plant it in us. Yiras Shemayim. Paradum, on the other hand, is the flowers that a person gives. When he wants to fires his wife and stuff like that, he sends flowers. What is the purpose of flowers? They look nice, they cost a lot of money, and they don't last long. Wouldn't it be more practical to get something that's useful? No, what you're saying is, I love my wife so much that I'm willing to even waste money for her. What are you saying? To please her. Same thing for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Rebbeinu Shalom says, I want something that costs $1 billion. So we say, okay, God, we're there. We're with you. We're participating in it. And that's it. That just shows Ahavas Hashem. Same thing goes with Shabbos, Yontif, the monies we spend for it. Why are you spending so much money on Shabbos and Yontif? Because God wants us to celebrate it, and therefore it's a mitzvah, and and it shows Avas Hashem, that we do mitzvahs because we love God, and we're spending money for Him. So therefore, chukim are very important, even though you feel that there's no real reason in the mitzvah, but there's a purpose in the mitzvah. That's the purpose, very important. Anyway, when it comes to this thing, we're going to see a very interesting thing. The Rebbeinu Shalom tells Moshe Rabbeinu that every day you'll pick an email, right? And it'll be on the sixth day, you'll come and you'll have a double email. And what do you call? Okay. So Moshe goes to Klal Yisrael and tells them, the Rebbeinu Shalom is starting to give you meat every day. You're going to have the slop, and you're going to have bread, right? It's going to fall in the morning. And he doesn't say anything about Shabbos, about Friday. When it comes to Yom HaShishi, when it came out of 6 days old, it started on a Sunday, by the way. When it came to Yom HaShishi, and they said that the way they did the man was an interesting way. Instead of some enterprising Jew, which guy should have done it, right? Say, how many people in your family? Say 10, 12, 15. I'll make you a box that holds 15. You don't have to make a cheshbon, just fill up the box and you got the omer per person, and it's enough. That's not what we did. We went out with a bag, not knowing how much it holds, and we came back, we measured it against the omer, and everybody found exactly what they needed. So what's the purpose of that? So one purpose, let's get the Shabbos, what we started with first. So Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't tell him anything about Shabbos. So what do? They all come to Moshe Rabbeinu when they found the double. So he says, Hu Ashadi Hashem, that's what God said, there's going to be Shabbos. And this is for Shabbos. What did he teach them? He taught them that Shabbos, not only did God pays for Shabbos, but there's no effort involved in Shabbos, in the finances of Shabbos, in the work of covered Shabbos, cooking and these things, a lot of work involved. But in the finances, there is no work involved. That means that somewhere during the year, or it could be weekly, or it could be monthly, however it is, there is going to be a payoff to you without any effort on your part, equal to what the Shabbosim and the Yom Tovim cost you for the whole year. Yom Tovim is machlekes. For all the Shabbosim, no, it's not machlekes really, but the Shabbosim is if you have to work for it or not. But without effort. Now, salesmen see it, mais mechol yom, that sometimes I go out and he works, and he has to get new customers, and the guy, they make a cheshbon, they know how much does it take to normally maintain his route. He has to get from 10 customers, let's say a dozen orders a time. That does the job. One day a guy calls him up and says to him, I need 1,000, right? Not just 10, I need 1,000, I need 100. Right? What's his work? He picks up the same phone for the 10, and he says, ship out 1,000 or 100 to this guy. He just made it 10 times as much or 1,000 times as much as he normally makes. Right? So how does that happen? There's no extra effort. Nobody goes. Guy gets a tip. There's no extra effort. A Rav who does something for nothing, he would have done it anyway. We'll get some kind of what do you call it? I don't know what they call it, but whatever they call it, they give him the off. These things are all without effort. Now, I say salesmen see it all the time. People in the real estate business see it all the time. Even the guys who sell, the agents. Now they get a percentage, and they expect to sell the house for a certain price. They ask for more and expect to be bargained down, and the guy accepts the price, the higher price. So that's free money. The same job, free money. People have stocks in the stock market, goes up, goes down. That's Shabbos.
All this extra money that the government's been giving out to
That's probably good for Shabbos. Probably for 10 years worth of Shabbos. Okay. So that's the lesson that it teaches us. You don't work for Shabbos. The second more important lesson, really. There's a pasuk like this. And the page. It says, Vayasu came in Yisrael, Vayilkadu Amar B'Hamamid. The guys went out to pick, and the guy who picks a lot picked, and the guy who picked a little bit picked. Vayomoidu b'Omer, they measured it against the Omer. V'lo hedif hamarbid, the guy who picked a lot didn't have more. V'hamamid lo hechsil, the guy who picked less didn't have less. Ish lefi ochlo kotu, each guy had exactly what they needed. Now how did that come, and why did it come like that? Well, the guy who picked a lot, and was showing him you can pick all you want, but if God doesn't want you to have it, you're not going to have it. Okay, he learned his lesson. But if I went and picked less, that means I know it's not enough, and why is it going to grow into being enough? Why should make the guys be lazy for no reason at all? Saitana, that's not what it means. All the lessons of business we learn from the Omer. This one is the most important one. How much mishtatlus does the person have to make a parnasa? Okay? So he goes out and he makes this cheshbon. You need an Omer lagugolis. Go pick. There are two types of pickers. One guy keeps looking at what he's got. It's not enough yet. He keeps picking and picking and picking. How much did he get? 1 Omer per person, because that's all he picked. And then you have the other person who goes out and says, it's plenty already, right? You'll have plenty. You'll have 1 Omer per person. You watch this sometimes in different families. Some women, when they prepare for a Shabbos for 10 people, they'll make for 50. And some people, you think, the husband will think anyway, oh, she's making this for 7 and we need for 10. It'll end up being daiva hoisa. Because she made for 10. She knows what she's doing. Okay? So that's the differences between the people. That's what exactly you're going to do, as much hishtadlus as you think you need. If you think you have to work all day, then you're going to work all day. Now, I remember this with Poyle. When I moved into my house on the east side, so there used to be a grocery store across the street. 2 fine Yidden, but they used to open up at 5 o'clock in the morning and they closed at 11 o'clock at night. Just 2 guys. And one guy obviously would leave the other guy, one guy morning, one's night, but in the afternoon they were all there. And why are you opening so early? Oh, there's people that need this in the morning. People live-in, okay. Anyway, they sold the business, they knocked down the building, they built new projects, they built things over there. And they opened up a bakery on the corner. They buy the bakery. And all of a sudden, they're open, I think, 7 o'clock to 7 to 7 maybe. Maybe even 8 to 7, I don't know. Hey, so I guess one time. Why aren't you there? I see you don't have to be there. You make the same panos in these hours. I remember there used to be a stand outside in the house many years ago. Guy was Machal Shabbos. His name was Benny. He had a stand. That was just a little wooden shack built up against the building. Sold newspapers and candies and stuff like that. And he was open 7 days a week, late, early. Him and his wife were very shvel. And one time he got sick, and he promised the Ben Shalom, no, we'll tell that, and I didn't know that to live the story. So one day I went down to buy a newspaper by him, and he's closed on Sunday. On Sunday he's got the most comics. That's why I'm going now to buy the newspaper. It costs a nickel, but you got a lot of comics in it, And he's not there. It's closed. Then he doesn't close. So anyway, the next day he's open. I asked him, what happened? Where were you Sunday? He says, well, I was sick, what he called, and I made a neder that if I get well, I'm going to keep Shabbos. And I saw by keeping Shabbos, it didn't cost me anything. So I figured if it doesn't cost me, let me try cutting out some Sundays too. And it doesn't hurt me. In other words, you're doing a business that can bring in that business in that many hours. Now the question is, how does it really do it? You said you needed to cost all those customers because the customers come in a shorter time. That's why if they know the bakeries or the grocery is not open, except for these hours, they will be there. In those hours, they're not going to forget about those hours. They know the grocery is going to be closed. So they go in those hours. So the guy doesn't lose money because of that. That's the practicality, how it happens. But Lamaisa, that's what you have to know. That I have to do ishtadlus according to what I understand is going to be necessary to make the parnosa that I want. And that's all you need. I don't have to go make a zacheshben. If you want to be a bricklayer, there's one price. You want to be a ditch digger, then it's only a minimum wage. And you know that the minimum wage is not going to cover your cost because they can't. I become a banker and I become a very rich man. I become a real estate agent, the same thing. With everything else. Or Amazon. Okay. I want to go to Amalek. Yes, and then I might have time, we'll go back. Okay. There are shitas that hold that if somebody misses Parshas Zocher, and he hears the kriya of Purim, which is this kriya, the 9 psukim, from Vayove Amalek till the end of the parsha, which also has Zocher, and that you're Yetzer. And I want to claim that you're not. Now I want to read the psukim here for you in the Zocher of this parsha, and you'll see what I mean. So Vayim Hashem Moshe Ksev Zeis Going by Sefer V'Simozne Yeshua Ki Moche Emche Zeich Amalek. I will destroy Amalek. The Rebbeinu didn't say you, it says I. V'Tarz Shemayim Moshe built the Mizbeach Vayikesh Moshe Nisi Vayim Ki Youre Al Keisko L'Chomer LaHashem Ba'Amalek Midor Dor. Amalek, God is fighting Amalek every generation, and that's the thing. So we don't have to do anything. No such law about us killing anybody, whatever it is. Now we go to Parshas Seitzei, where the kriya for Parshas Zocher is, and it says like this: Zocher sheshosel Amalek baderech. Remember what Amalek did to you when you went out of Mitzrayim. Ashekoch baderech, he called you off. In other words, he brought in kfir into the world. You can see, everyone sees God's hand, and you come along and say, big deal. It doesn't mean anything. And because of that, he caused lo Youre lekim. When God makes you peaceful from all your enemies around you, I would think that Amalek is included in that, right? That I am now free from Amalek because they're all dead, right? Wipe out Amalek from Taras Shamayim. What? The Zecher of Amalek that's in you He did it to you. He harmed you. He brought kfir into you. Get rid of that now. Now that you have peace, there's no outside problems. There's everything else. Now you can kind of talk about the internalization of things, and that's your job in doing it. I remember a job that made me do anything that really I thought about this. Probably I can't take full credit. When I was in Tells, I was about 14 years old at the time, and it was Purim, and everybody was drinking, and I guess I was a little tipsy. So I had the chutzpah to go over and ask Rabbi Meir Bloch, who's the Rosh Hashiva, a question. Like this, normally I wouldn't have the guts to walk over to him. That's what so this I had the guts. What did I ask him? I asked him, if we were Mekayim the mitzvah of Mechias HaMolik, we'll only have 612 mitzvahs. And we're supposed to have 613. So how could it be that we could wipe them out? So he answered me that it doesn't mean Amalek, it means what Amalek is brought into the world, and that's kefirah. Now that's what you have to wipe out. So that's even if you wipe out Amalek, you're still going to have to wipe that out. So I said that with that pshat, I'm answering this point also. This is not the inyan of Mechias Amalek of the people, it's the point of Amalek in you. And that's the part that you have to wipe out. Get some more time, good. It says Amalek came, Youre Amalek, and Yeshua won the war, and it says Vayachlish Yeshua's Amalek, he weakened them. Dr. Rashi, what does it mean? He weakened them. He killed the strong ones among them. Al Pi Adibo. He left over all the weak guys. He didn't kill them. And we say to learn that he did this Al Pi Adibo. But all the strong guys he killed. Vayachlish, he weakened Amalek. Why? Why not wipe them out? If he's knocked out all the strong ones already, so these weak ones are easy to knock off. So why don't you knock off the easy ones, the weak ones? So I tell you, the Rebbeinu says, Al Pi Adibo, the Rebbeinu said to do that. The reason is because the person has to know what's good and what's bad. And the only way you're going to know what's good and what's bad is if you have bad over there. You say, don't be like that. No matter what it looks like, it's bad. And we see this very much with Bizman Hazeh. You have people in the Congress quoting Hitler. Right? You have people telling us that Mussolini did some good things. He brought the trains came on time. All these things. We're speaking about all of a sudden the biggest Rishonim in the world. We start talking about all their good points, supposedly. And that's not true. These are bad points. These were they're Amalek. They're doing that. You should know that's wrong too, because it's not the way to do it. And I'll give you a marshal. I don't have it on that one, but right now, what we call the left, the right. Anyway, a lot of it obviously is more liberal. What's more liberal mean? Means the more you do things wrong, this is going to still be mutter. It's okay. How do you know it's wrong? People make it wrong, right? So Farana din the Gemara that if you rachim al nachzor, and ultimately you'll be a nachzor or a rachman. Right, now how is that possible? So I'll give you an actual case that happened in California. It must have been 50 years ago. Okay, what happened there was a white girl that the parents owned a few big supermarkets. So they're rich people, and 3 Schwarze kidnapped her, and they held her for ransom. And obviously they didn't do a good job holding her. She was able to get to a phone and call the cops, and the cops came and rescued her. So now they're coming up for charges and supposed to be, So anyway, they got a liberal judge to be their judge. And it happens to be, you can ask, and I think in New York State you can ask for it too, I do not want a jury trial. I'd like to be just tried in front of the judge alone. And that's what they chose. And wait, but before the judge can give a sentence, he has to talk to the prosecutor and to the victim. And the prosecutor and the victim came to see the judge, and the prosecutor asked, what are you going to give them? Says, I'm thinking of giving them 3 years of weekends in jail. So the woman started to scream, do you know what they did to me? You know how they treated me? You know what they did to me? I don't know if they raped her or not, that I don't know. But anyway, they did a lot of things to her. So, and he keeps talking, and she keeps interrupting him. She says, you do that one more time, I'm going to put you in jail for contempt of court. Here you have a Rachman. Oh, he says, why? I forgot this point, I'm sorry. Why did he want to do this? Why did he want to do such a, these guys did terrible things. Why did he want to give weekends in jail, 3 years of weekends in jail? Because one of the three is the first Schwarzer that got into the electricians union in California. And if he puts him in jail and gives him what he deserves to get, he's going to put back civil rights 20 years. Because to get another Schwarz into the electricity union is going to take another 20 years to get another one in. So therefore, we can't put him away. So he's a Rachman, right? Because he really wants civil rights to take off in the beginning. He's a Rachman. But he's an Anachzo, a person who used these things to hurt other people. And when it comes to the person, so to defend this thing, he's even willing to be an Achzo and a Rachman. On the soft person, well, he's willing to be the Achzo. That's what it means, being Achzo or Rachman. So I'm saying this, and all these things, when you say you're excessive in anything, and you show what a great guy somebody was, it's baloney. These are all part of the rishus, and you got to watch it. I remember when Pope John, you guys remember him, became Pope. Roncalli was his name. Became Pope. He got rid of a lot of things against the Jews. Got rid of a lot of things. And I was coming along, and the perfidious Jews and their tefillahs and the things like that. They took these things out. So I went to the Rosh Yeshiva's Atzal again. I don't know what year it was, but I was a young kid. And I said to the Rosh Yeshiva, oh, you see what a great guy this guy is. Baruch Hashem, we got a new guy, a guy there that's, be nice to the Jews and stuff like that. So the Rosh Yeshiva told me, he's a Roshim Merusha. His Esav comes to you in the guise of Achiv, he also comes to you in the guise of Esav. He says, so I didn't know what he's talking about, so I was figuring, as a young kid, these old people that went through Europe and this thing, that, they have one picture of Goyim, like here we're American, we know better, stuff like that. And still I learned a little bit more about him. He was the nuncio, the papal nuncio to Hungary or Romania, I don't remember. And he actually saved 5,000 Jews by writing them out baptismal papers, making them Catholics, and therefore, but he made them go to be baptized physically. He didn't just give them the papers. He made them to go baptized physically. Now, by Goyim, by the Catholics, as soon as you are baptized, you're a Catholic. Doesn't make it if you did, but you're a Catholic. He saved your soul already. He was Yetzi, he made 5,000 Catholics on that day. And any one of those guys will go and keep Shabbos, they'll be able, in the time in Spain, they'll burn you to death for it. And that's what happened over there, right? They did it because they don't want to be killed, but you did it, so you are Catholic. So what he did was, he didn't save 5,000 Jews, he created 5,000 Catholics on that day. So it didn't help. So his being good to the Jews was not really being good to the Jews as far as he's concerned. As far as we're concerned, they got 5,000 guys lived. But as far as he's concerned, he created 5,000 Catholics. That's the point. So sometimes you have to understand that, and you have to see what's called Ra, Ba'ilam, to be able to see that's what eventually left over Amalek. Anyway, have a good Shabbos, a healthy Shabbos. It's a cold Shabbos, so be very careful. A good Shabbos.
Shabbos, Rabbi.